Right now at 4, a man is arrested in Van Buren after a deadly stabbing. What we're learning from police as that investigation is underway. Plus, Fort Smith city directors tackle proposed budget cuts in a heated discussion. Where that discussion stands to help free up money for the work needed to comply with that federal consent decree.
Covering news where you live. This is 5 News First at 4.
We're going to begin today with stocks surging to one of the biggest gains since World War II this afternoon. The Dow rocketed back up 7%, the Nasdaq up 12%, the S&Ps back up to 9.5%. Comes after the president announced a 9-day pause on his reciprocal tariffs except for China. Erica Brown has the story.
Hours after President Trump's sweeping reciprocal tariffs went into effect, he announced on social media a 90-day pause for trade partners except China.
I did a 90-day pause for the people that didn't retaliate because I told them if you retaliate, we're going to double it.
Stocks surged with the news even as the president hiked tariffs on Chinese imports, pushing them to 125% after Beijing raised its retaliatory tariffs on U.S. goods to 84%.
China wants to make a deal. They just don't know how quite to go about it.
The president said he authorized a pause and moved tariffs back to an across-the-board 10% after hearing from more than 75 countries who want to negotiate trade deals.
We have just been overwhelmed by the response from mostly our allies who want to come and negotiate in good faith.
Trump's announcement comes after the European Union hit back with new retaliatory tariffs on more than $20 billion of U.S. goods.
Donald Trump is feeling the heat from Democrats and across America about how bad these tariffs are. He is reeling, he is retreating, and that is a good thing.
The White House says Trump's reversal today was not influenced by the stock market's volatility, saying dozens of countries are now pushing for new trade negotiations, which was the president's strategy all along. Erica Brown, CBS News, the White House.
It is unclear what will happen after the 90-day period concludes while countries negotiate with the Trump administration. New at 4 today, former Arkansas Governor Mike Huckabee has been confirmed as the U.S. ambassador to Israel. Comes after the president nominated him for that position last month. Former governor has told lawmakers he would carry out the president's priorities, not his, as ambassador.
Not a bad day at all. Current temperatures largely in the 70s, even some low 80s across places like Sallisaw, Fort Smith. Boonville also sitting at 80 degrees there. 78 our number in Fayetteville. 76 the temperature in Bentonville. Rogers and Springdale both reporting to a 75 degrees. Mostly clear skies out there. That's going to be the case likely for the rest of the evening. Temperatures falling into the low 50s by the time you wake up tomorrow. In northwest Arkansas will be nice and comfortable again tomorrow. Much of the same expected in the River Valley. We'll be in the 60s through about 11 o'clock tonight, dropping briefly into the mid-50s by tomorrow morning, and then we start to turn things around. There are changes, though, knocking at our back door. You see this fella right here moving through central Oklahoma? That very cold front moves through tonight. It's the first of 2 cold fronts that we expect over the next 12 hours, which is going to usher in some slightly cooler temperatures, probably through the end of the work week. But by the time we get to this weekend, those temperatures rebounding. It's going to feel awesome out there this weekend. We'll track your weekend forecast plus the next chance of rain, which isn't too far away, all coming up in just a few moments.
All right, Scott, thanks. New details on a homicide investigation now in Van Buren. A suspect is facing charges. Police say they found the weapon used in that deadly stabbing. Police say they were called Sunday morning to a welfare check at South 40th and Kingsbury Drive in Van Buren. Officers say they found 34-year-old Michael O'Malley dead near a fence line from a stab wound to the chest. Police say the suspect, 19-year-old Anthony Tabor, and O'Malley had gotten into a physical altercation. Documents show witnesses told investigators they heard O'Malley scream before seeing Tabor take off in a stolen vehicle.
Past 3 days, the detectives have been interviewing people who knew the victim, his family, of course, potential people who have witnessed or became suspects, and we determined yesterday afternoon that we had probable cause to charge Anthony Tabor with second-degree murder.
Police arrested Tabor yesterday and searched the area around his apartment, eventually finding the suspected murder weapon in a nearby creek. Tabor facing charges of second-degree murder and theft by receiving. We're told he is in the Crawford County Jail as this investigation continues. Meanwhile, an Alma man accused of shooting his mother-in-law, who is now in critical condition. Crawford County Sheriff Daniel Perry says Christopher Miller shot the woman in the face during an argument, then tried to shoot his father-in-law. Miller's father-in-law was not injured, but his mother-in-law was airlifted to a hospital in Springfield, Missouri. Miller is facing charges of attempted first-degree murder and battery and is being held without bond tonight. We're learning that nobody was hurt after a fire in downtown Bentonville this afternoon. It all happened at the building under construction near the Ledger. Employees at the Ledger confirmed that they evacuated the building, but by 3 o'clock this afternoon, they were given the all clear from the fire department to return. Latest measles outbreak has now topped 600 cases in 23 states, including the first case reported in Hawaii. Most of them have been in Texas, where 2 unvaccinated children have died. Health and Human Services Secretary Robert Kennedy Jr. sat down, says now it's encouraging people to get vaccinated against measles. A change of heart for Kennedy, who once wrote that measles vaccines are unnecessary and risky.
That you're saying that. What's the position philosophically of the federal government in terms of
the federal government's position? My position is people should get the measles vaccine, but the government should not be mandating.
Understand?
You know what I've always said during my campaign and every public statement I've made. I'm not going to take people's vaccines away from them. Right. What I'm going to do is make sure that we have good science so that people can make an informed choice.
You can see more of Dr. LaPook's exclusive interview with Kennedy tonight on the CBS Evening News. Rescue teams in the Dominican Republic digging through the rubble of a nightclub after a roof collapse. At least 113 people were killed, one of the worst disasters to hit the Caribbean island. Right now, Christian Benavidez is learning more about the victims.
It's a race against time as crews continue to pull bodies from the wreckage of the Jet Set Club. Each passing minute, an eternity for relatives of the victims.
We only heard that he was supposed to be at this hospital where we had to go to confirm it was him, but we checked and he wasn't there.
Shaylin Pena turned 17 on Thursday, but instead of celebrating, she's desperately searching for her father.
He was really important to me, and I'm not prepared for anything that isn't hugging him right now, so I've been praying day and night.
Those who wait in agony turn to their faith for comfort. The popular nightclub in Santo Domingo was packed for a concert when the roof collapsed early Tuesday, trapping hundreds of people on the dance floor. It's not yet clear what caused the collapse, and officials plan to thoroughly investigate, but they say that their top priority right now is that search and rescue effort. Merengue singer Ruby Perez was performing on stage. He is among the dead. Also killed former MLB players Octavio Dotel and Tony Blanco. Dotel got his start in the majors playing for the New York Mets. The team held a moment of silence for him last night. Another victim, Nelsie Cruz, a government official and sister of MLB All-Star Nelson Cruz. She called the island's president from underneath the debris and died at the hospital. Monday night parties drew big crowds to the club, which has operated for decades. Authorities have not said when the building was last inspected. Christian Benavidez, CBS News, Santo Domingo, Dominican Republic.
Back here at home, Fort Smith weighing some big changes to a budget to help free up money for the work needed to comply with that federal consent decree. 5 News reporter Morgan Wrigley is here now with more on that discussion.
Well, the city is under pressure to pay for sewer upgrades tied to that federal consent decree, which will add up to millions of dollars. This week, leaders are digging into where they could cut spending to help cover the cost, but there's some debate over the best way to do it. At Tuesday's study session, Fort Smith Director Jared Rago laid out his Curbing Unrestricted Taxpayer Spending package, a proposal aimed at freeing up what he said could be more than $7 million to go toward sewer improvements this year. That money would come from spending cuts across 13 city departments that receive money from the Water and Sewer Operating Fund. That's departments like Human Resources, Planning and Zoning, and the Mayor's Office. Rigo says it's all about making sure every available dollar goes towards fixing the city sewer system.
My hope is that this proposal serves as an inspiration for fresh renewal of a collaborative process between elected officials and city administration. It's important for administration, the CFO, and the department heads to take time between now and the end of April and illustrate the ways they can genuinely, specifically, and responsibly reduce, eliminate, or table expenses for the remainder of 2025.
Not everyone on the board is on board with this plan. Some worry that broad cuts could hurt some city services, and others say that they want a more targeted approach. Director Christina Katsavis presented another idea that includes starting budgets from zero and reviewing spending more often. The city is still working to secure a formal extension on the consent decree, which would push that deadline to 2036. In the meantime, the conversation isn't over as the city keeps looking for ways to balance those obligations with everyday city services. Morgan Wrigley, 5 News.